Oh, I forgot to do the thing.
Ooh,
I mean, at this point,
it's too late.
oh, the thing.
The little intro video. They give us a second.
Countdown. Yeah.
Hi, guys. What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? You're listening to the CultPop Spoiler Alert live stream where we review this week's books. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo, a.k.a. JD, owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex at 4327 Main Street in Philadelphia, PA. With me this week is early voting enthusiast, Noel Bartocci. Noel, tell the people something.
Make sure that if you have a mail-in ballot, you fill it out correctly in both envelopes and sign it, as well as you have the options to drop them off at early polling places in most states. Just make sure that your ballot will be counted. Vote.
I concur, good doctor. Also with me this week is Len, eating naan and liking it. Tell the people something.
Hey, everybody. If you want to have a really good time, turn on Netflix and watch Enola Holmes. It's delightful.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's great.
We'll watch it. We didn't watch that. Instead, we watched Before Sunset.
Wow.
Well, no, the second one. We're just watching them now.
I thought the second one was after sunset.
Before sunrise, before sunset, before midnight.
Okay.
And they were done like 10 years apart, right? Or longer, right?
Each one is 9 years apart. Yeah.
I like that.
Right.
The ability to do that kind of thing. It's cool.
Also with me this week is the itinerant Brian Lieb. B, tell people something.
What should I tell you? Well, I didn't come up with a thing to say about me, and so I just said the itinerant, which is not even true. I'm at home. I'm not wandering around. But here we go. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Like I said, we are here to discuss this past week's new comic releases. But first, we got correspondence. Now, before
people who be watching and listening to us.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just going to tell you that was extremely painful. And if you're going to do that, go into another room.
I backed away.
It's so loud. It hurt me so much. Anywhoomst, gentlemen in the chat, I'm getting ready to read an email. Will one of you please get the comment and put it at the bottom of our chat so that I can find it when it's time? Let's see. The email is somewhere in my many tabs. Here we go. Christopher St. Saucy, good night. Wrote in after the show started last week, so we didn't get to it. Here is last week's email. King in Black, too many issues. So I picked up the first issue of 10 of Swords the other day because on the cover it says that there are 22 issues in the crossover event. I love that I am going in knowing how many issues it is. That's a pretty good point. King in Black has 15 issues in this month's previews alone. That is too many issues. Chris St. Saucy, good night. Also, JD, what first printings of issues of the current Thor run do you have? I will have to get back to that later. I did not see that question until just this second. Do you guys also like it that you can see that it is a 22-parter?
I mean, it's cool. But to be fair, we've seen that before. We've seen some miniseries that have started off one of 6. And then somewhere around the second or third one, all of a sudden it magically turns to the final issue. So, sometimes that number doesn't mean anything.
You know what? I almost feel like it, in a weird way, it doesn't matter. So, like, when it's like a 6-issue or 7-issue event, that there's going to be like 25 extra little things that you could jump on if you want to, but it's just the 6. And if you're enjoying it, you'll do it. But if, like with this X-Men thing, 22 all disparate series, I actually think that turns me off. And I don't know why. Yeah. It kind of turns me away. I don't mean like it's I know that they're all part of one whole story. However, there's no spine to the event. It's just all jumping back and forth to a bunch of series I don't read. And maybe it's the completionist in me that doesn't want to adopt that. Maybe it's the fact that I don't want to have to like jump in and learn new names every time. I don't know. Maybe it won't read that way, but either way, it's 10 creative teams now too.
Right.
So it's that kind of later. I'll read it later. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't mind necessarily the idea, like the concept, but the amount of issues is daunting, for that one. When it's like you guys remember last week, before I even opened the book, I was like, 1 of 22. Ugh, that's a lot. And like Noel said, like it's not little, in everything, there's little tie-ins, but these are all integral parts of the story, or at least so they claim. And I think it kind of shows up in this week's issue, which we'll get to, where it didn't quite feel like a seamless story transition from the last issue, I thought. But yeah, so I think it's more the number of issues in this case.
I almost wish we were starting with that one first, because that seems like a perfect segue into that book, because I disagree with you entirely about the seamless transition.
You know what? Actually, I am going to disagree with myself. As I was talking about it, I remember that I felt that in the first 2 pages, and then as it got on, I was like, "Oh, right, that's what happened to a button."
Well, yeah. Plot-wise, it was a seamless transition, but in terms of like the books, it wasn't a seamless transition.
Right.
Like
it felt like a jump, but yeah.
It was so. What I think what they're trying. You know what? We'll save it for the review.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I like Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight said, "You owe me money for my TV speakers, Len."
Yeah, I saw that.
And Robert Monroe on YouTube is saying 22 times $1, too much damn money.
Oh, I think
Who's
that's
paying
a blank.
$1?
No. I think that's a blank. Times blank 99. So 2.99.
I see. Oh, X.99. I see. I was like, how's he getting these books for $1?
Yeah, are you paying for your bootlegs? What's wrong with you?
He's got the hook.
Yeah, because they're not $1.
We have another email, which is in the messenger. Here we go. So Homosexual, who's been with us for a very long time, his first line tickles me because it says, "I am sorry. I am not sure what email to send to." Hey guys, cultpopgo@gmail.com. We mention it every single show. Cultpopgo@gmail.com is where you can send your emails for this here live event. Anyway, he goes on, "I'd like to say I really enjoyed the book club of Neil Gaiman's Eternals. Gaiman is a creator who is a victim of his own success, overpraised, and infallible to any criticism. What other creatives do you think have fallen victim to this? J. Scott Campbell, Todd McFarlane, and Jim Lee immediately come to mind. But I would also include Bendis, whose Legion book is the worst thing still on my pull list. Thoughts?"
I disagree.
Your live stream is at 7:30 a.m. West Coast, so it's hard for me to show up at the beginning, but I do always try to be there. Thank you, Homosexual. It is wonderful to hear from you. cultpopgo@gmail.com is where you can email us. And other creatives who fall victim to their own fame, I guess. I would say maybe John Byrne.
What are we talking about with that exactly? Like, do we mean people that are so famous that now the things that they do don't live up to their previous works, but they're still decent? Or like, what's the question, do we think?
I'll also like to jump on that. Like that, I'm going to question your question.
Okay.
I think are we presupposing that the reason why people that have been in the industry for 20 or 30 years start to decline is because they're too important, or just because they start to decline? So I know that Bendis has been around for like 30 years at this point, and not all of them have been winners. But is that because he's so famous now that it doesn't matter? Or is it because he's just running out of stories? Like that, I don't know, I
question your question to Brian's question. I wonder if it's, how directors, let's say, you know what? George Lucas. So with the original Star Wars trilogy, there were a myriad of people involved in creating a perfect storm to make an actually watchable film. If you look at any of the original script, any of the original plot of the original Star Wars, New Hope, It is a friggin' mess, and it's virtually unwatchable. They did a comic book series based on the original script. Couldn't get through it. Terrible. But there were so many people, so many checks and balances before the final product got out that it made something good, which is not always the case. Too many cooks in the kitchen, right? But I wonder if maybe because these people get so high up that the editors feel like they don't have to edit anymore. They don't have to give them any sort of checks and balances. And there's whatever they pump out is what hits the final page. And I wonder if maybe that has something to do with it.
I would agree. Sorry, go ahead.
Wait, Len, do you have any questions?
Yeah. I don't have any questions.
About our questions?
I don't have any questions. It does show that me and JD may be Eternals because we seem to be thinking with a unimind because we both were thinking about John Byrne and we both went to directors as a way of kind of like offering up an example for this. I think George Lucas is it's a perfect one because just like you said, JD, he had all those checks and balances in place for Star Wars: A New Hope. You can see what happens absent those checks and balances with the prequels. You know what I mean? So it's right there on the surface. I think that in regards to the question, Byrne is a good one. I read the question more as you've become so famous that you're almost above your criticism, and despite the criticism, you are just going to keep doing your stuff because there's enough people who think your ish don't stink. So
Frank Miller.
And Frank Miller is exactly where I was going to go.
Yeah,
and Frank Miller. I mean, because God knows what after Dark Knight, everything that he did in the Batman world after that, even though some people do like 3, I forget what it's called, Dark Knight
Master
3.
Race.
Master Race. There are people that enjoy that one, but the second one, and then what was that piece of crap that he did that he basically turned a Batman book into like some Catman type of thing?
It wasn't War on Terror. It was something
Holy
like that.
Terror.
Holy Terror.
Holy Terror. The Holy Terror. Yeah, like Frank Miller is definitely the first one that comes to my mind. I wouldn't say Bendis because I find that as much work as Bendis is, and there are hits and misses, I find that at least in reading his interviews that Bendis is for the most part open about his failures.
Yeah,
and there's the difference.
He does the work, right? Like he's not
right.
He never rests on his laurels. But you're right. Like I think JD's really right too. Like with the idea of when you have that much clout or that much namesake, you do get away with a lot more. So if you think about like Bendis's last year or two at Marvel, he had written literally every character at that point. Mm-hmm. In the same year, he did Civil War 2, which was awful, but then also Defenders, which was fucking fantastic. And like at the same time. So it's not like a not given effort and you can get away with anything. It's just more like some work, some don't. And you have more swings at bat when you have a big name. Mm-hmm. That's it.
It can be tough too when you've got like a favorite creator and every time you read them, they're awesome. They're like one of the best. And then years go by and then the last few things haven't been that great, but you just like, you don't want to give up, love it. You have this emotional attachment to like, I had this experience of like a Neil Gaiman book, the first 20 Neil Gaiman books I read. And this next one, I still think of it as being like that. So maybe that colors our estimation too, that we're like, well, I liked it. I still like this Bendis book. It maybe reminded me of the older stuff, but
are you saying we give it credence? Like we give a let nostalgia kind of like color something that is bad. Like it's not bad. It could be better.
Right. Or even if it's not bad, but just not, it's like, when I really think about it, I haven't enjoyed the last 10 stories that I've read from this guy as much as I expect to out of this guy.
Right.
Well, maybe he's not as good, but sometimes we don't follow through that thought process, or we don't want to,
who's kind of gone down in favor, I guess. Not really. I still like the writer. But Jeff Johns. So right before he disappeared, when he was doing the Justice League and all the stuff for New 52, and then disappeared when he got the job for like movie creative,
Yeah.
everything started to just kind of like diminish and be late and fall away. And then he disappeared from comics for like 2 years altogether. That last output wasn't a bang. It was like a whimper. So even though I really like Doomsday Clock, it doesn't feel like he has the same, like marquee pull to a book, which is, I mean, we're going to talk about one next. So maybe I'm wrong, but still, like it used to be like, oh, Jeff Johns is doing a random character. I'm in.
Yeah.
Sign up for 3 of them. Now it's like
the premier DC writer for a while. Like he was like the steering the ship, Yeah.
Yeah, it's just he just kind of faded away.
I still love Jeff Johns. Every time I read Jeff Johns' book, I'm reminded, oh, I love Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
I do too, but did you read his Justice League run before he disappeared? Because you wouldn't feel that way necessarily. Like it just wasn't very good. The Jim Lee stuff all the way through the Dark Side War. Like there was a couple of little like tinks of like pretty cool. Like the Dark Side War itself was pretty cool, but everything in between was just edgelord awful, and it just wasn't very good. But you don't remember that. You think about all the big stuff that he's fantastic.
I wonder if that is a harder pill to swallow when you're a writer, because when you're a writer, you feel like those chops will never go away. If anything, you feel like as you become older and more seasoned, your writing maybe becomes a little bit deeper, as opposed to an artist who's, their feelings are very much on the screen, right? Like I'm thinking about, my favorite artist, George Perez, who had to bite the pill just a couple of years ago and say like, yo, I have to retire. I do not have it anymore because of whatever reasons, you know what I mean? I just wonder if that's a harder pill to swallow. And the other thing I was going to say is like the letter referenced Todd McFarlane. I don't know if I would throw Todd McFarlane in there. He definitely is, a cocky motherfucker. But I don't know if I would. Exactly. And it's not like he's out here still thinking that his ish don't stink. I mean, yeah, he knows that if he draws a poster, it's going to sell because it's McFarlane art. But that's the same thing. The same thing could be said of Joe Quesada. Joe Quesada knows if he draws a cover, it's going to sell it. You know what I mean? But he's not out here trying to take, say like he's like that dude anymore. I don't think anyway.
I will say in defense of Todd McFarlane, very recently on social media, I came across like I think it was a video about his action figures, or like he was showing off a mold of a new DC action figure coming out, and he was describing it like a 14-year-old boy playing with a model. And it was the most adorable thing in the world. I was just like, oh, like it made me like him more. I was just like, oh, it's not fully painted yet, but you could totally see that this is going to be like this. And he was like, shut the camera. And he was so excited. Yeah.
Those action figures are good too. He makes some good action figures.
It made me very excited. I was just like, that's right. These guys are fans. They've always been fans. This is awesome. Like you get those moments. Yeah.
One other tiny little tidbit about Todd, which I really like, is that he is out there making little videos to teach kids how to draw.
Yes, I did see that.
I'm not sure who's holding the camera, if it's his wife or whatever, but he's there with his big tablet, and he's there, and they do close-ups, and he's like, here's how you draw an eyeball, here's how you draw a hand, here's how you do hair digitally. Here's, if you do a trick here, and he makes all these noises like I do when he's drawing. Like he's just constantly making sound effects and onomatopoeia while drawing, and you can feel the sort of passion he has for what he's doing, and just the fact that he's sharing it with people, I think is really kind of sweet.
Paying it forward, which is actually what you want with your comic creators, man. Back in the day, I was actually reading an article about somebody. No, it wasn't an article. I was listening to a YouTube chat between these two older creatives, and they were talking about back in their day, one of the ways of breaking into the business, especially if you are a writer, was by kind of like developing a relationship with the editors as such through writing in the letter pages, and you become like someone they see in the letter pages. And next thing you know, when you send in an idea for a story, they give you a little bit more credence. That's going away anymore. But they were saying that was their way, those editors' way of paying it forward. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what Todd McFarlane was doing with those little videos.
I was gonna say, like, with the advent of live streaming and YouTube and Twitch and stuff, there's a lot of creators now that have like little shows like this and stuff where they engage with their audiences and then just kind of like pull them in. I think Ed Pisker's got a show, and Joe Quesada and Dan Panosian do like a drink and draw where they talk with the audience the whole time while they just live stream them drinking and drawing, like things like that, where even though the letters pages are all but gone, they're still around, but only so many books kind of like keep them going. It's almost been replaced by these digital options where people can just engage directly, which is pretty cool.
Very true.
Samuel David says, Spawn is just boring. And then what else? Oh, yeah, toys. He also teamed up with Robert Kirkman for The Haunt.
That was good for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Spider-Man was pretty good.
Listen, his Spider-Man with David Michelini is my all-time favorite era of Spider-Man. It hit me at exactly the right time in my reading in the comic book realm. And I still love it. I'll still flip through it. I'll still read them every so often. I don't know if it's all nostalgia, but I just absolutely love that time period in Spider-Man history. So he'll always be one of my favorites, if only because of that. All right, it's time to move on to the books. Let's move on to Three Jokers. Oh, shoot. In the notes, it said Three Jokers number 1. That's a lie. It's Three Jokers number 2. Put that up on the screen. There we go. And let's see. What does Diamond or UCS have to say about it? It's by Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok. As Batman and Batgirl follow an unexpected thread linking the Three Jokers with someone from the Dark Knight's past, Red Hood dives headfirst into trouble and finds himself struggling to stay afloat without the aids of his allies. Batman Three Jokers continues its trajectory as the ultimate examination of the Joker and his never-ending conflict with Batman. Prepare yourself for the second chapter of one of the most terrifying and personal mysteries Batman has ever faced. I like this book quite a bit. I'm very excited about this book. My only problem with it is that it's only 3 issues. I don't understand how this is going to wrap up in one more issue unless they're doing the thing where it's like Absolute Carnage, where it's like, oh, we solved this mystery. Here's another. Here's the next thing that's coming down the pike.
Well, I think it was positioned differently originally, right? Like it wasn't Black Label, or it was like built up in regular continuity and then maybe shifted over to.
Well, that's a sticky wicket. So like whether it's continuity or not is a different story based off of what the publisher thinks and what the creators think. So like I think Justin Fabok actually even said like, yeah, it's in continuity. Shut up. And then Jeff Johns is just like, it could be if you want to take it that way. I'm basing the story off, like he had a more diplomatic answer, but then the idea of slapping it with the Black Label, what the fuck does that mean? Because they've never really identified or defined that Black Label is always or is not always or only ever can be continuity.
Right.
Like, so I don't know. It's continuity. To me, it's like, let's just say it's continuity. And then other writers and artists can.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I just meant as far as JD's like question of whether it would.
I don't think
it's intended to lead into something else. Or
I don't think it is in any like. I think it's only intended to lead into like, or it's not. I don't think it's intended to lead into anything, but I think it's intended to just like drop a mic and run away. So like I think there will be like a big old something that happens like and then that's the end of this story period. But I don't know if this creative team is like has a trilogy of books planned. I would doubt it. Like this book has been in production for so long that I think up until now we would have heard like it's the first part of a trilogy or it's the, you know what I mean? Like I think we would have heard that, right?
Possibly. What did you guys think of the book?
I loved it.
Brian?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I really like the art. I think even more this time than in the last issue. Does it remind you guys of Gary Frank a bit?
A bit.
A lot.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, I mean, fantastic. You know,
not a bad thing.
Reminded of somebody, right? That was great. I find the story interesting and personal. you know, between the Bat family characters.
That's a terrifying page.
This page.
Oh yeah.
So for the people listening at home who don't have the video, it's the page where we see the dead Joker from issue 1, and it is being multiplied because you're looking through the eye of a fly that is landing on the Joker. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's also, speaking of Joker shenanigans, like, what is happening in the beginning? This Joker is fantasizing about, like, I don't know, holding a family hostage, and also fantasizing the parts where they are resisting him.
Yeah.
Theirs.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's not idyllic, and then it's revealed to be fake. It's like he's fantasizing about an awfully fucked up situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's his dream.
And loving every moment of it.
Yeah. I particularly really liked that. So when they introduced the whole idea of 3 Jokers and what does that mean and blah, 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 I like that as we get deeper into this mystery, there's nothing supernatural about it. There's nothing...
Yeah.
There's nothing like alternate DC universes or multiversal. It's literally just like a recruitment effort of the right type of people, it seems. Like, did anybody else get that impression? Like they didn't outwardly say it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're trying to turn the Red Hood into a new Joker.
Yeah, like it's the idea of like over the course of the last couple of decades, there have been 3 individuals who fit this profile, and they just kind of keep creating new Jokers in a way. Like it's insane.
Do you guys feel that undermines the character at all that we've been reading for this entire time? Do you think that it sort of lessens the character, that it's not one guy this entire experience? Or do you like that there's multiple Jokers?
I'll tell you, it's certainly an interesting concept that also can be done away with at any time. You know, anytime they want, one of them is the real Joker, and it was all his.
Yeah, I mean, we've already started whittling down 3 to 2. So.
Right, exactly.
Unless that was the original one, unlikely.
And I think it only in regards to flying in the face of anything, it only flies in the face of maybe 2 other writers' work. So I think it was Grant Morrison had that whole story in his Batman run. It was like a prose story of the Joker is always different because he's has multiple personalities.
That was cool.
So that was a whole different, like, other writers have tried to approach the fact that he's always different in different eras, and that was Grant Morrison's version. And then I think it was Scott Snyder that did the whole kind of like mystical metal Dionysian that had like allowed him to regenerate and kind of become anew every era. You know, like he would die, but not really, kind of shit.
Right. Yeah.
So this flies in the face of those.
It's fine. I don't think it. You know, first of all, I enjoy it, and I like that aspect of it because to me, it's funny how much we were talking about. Oh, JD's got to mute his mic because his mic is spilling over into the show.
Boisterous party.
Yes. Are you back on? Can you hear us, JD?
Yes.
Yeah, we were saying we had to stop talking because your mic wasn't muted, so it was spilling over into the show. So no, it's fine. It's fine. No. It's fine. You're editing it. So anyway, no, what I enjoy is it's funny. We were talking about Jeff Johns and how he maybe has lost a step or two. I actually had to look again to see that Jeff Johns had written this because I felt that this was the most original thing that's been done with the Joker in a long time. I wish there was not a Joker war or any of the last Jokers we've seen in the last 2-3 years, you know, there for this to be the first presentation of the Joker since, let's say, you know, in the last 2-3 years, because it's original, it's fantastic artwork, it's slow, methodical detective work as well as from Batman. You know, you see him teaming up with 2 people that you don't really see him teaming up with too much anymore to this extent, Jason and Barbara. and you see them presented in ways that you don't often see them. Now, I will say I don't like the little moment that happens between Jason and Barbara, even though it is just a moment. I don't like it because I felt that I don't think that was true to her, Barbara Gordon's character, and so that's a misstep of Jeff's. But short of that, I think this book is, and I don't like that we have another scene of the Wayne's murders. I'm like,
enough.
Can we go one special Batman book without? Because I think we saw it in issue 1. Like, we don't need to see it in issue 2 as well.
Every issue.
I think it's important for what's about to happen though with the
Joe
guy.
Chill.
With Joe Chill. Yeah,
Right.
I'm thinking that's why they put that in.
I'm also going to disagree with you.
His prison number.
No.
Does anybody know what day and month Detective 27 was published? Because
it was published on May 1939. I think
March 3rd.
March 3rd.
Yeah, because his prison number is 0331939. Joe Chills is. So I was trying to figure out what the 033 might be, but maybe just nothing.
Oh my god,
that's cute. I was gonna. Brandon says I like the Jason Babs thing with the context. She knew it was a mistake. She caught up with them. Yeah, so I don't even think it was that simple. I disagree with Len of it being a mistake or something. I liked it because the mentality and the relationship that victims, especially victims of the same perpetrator, often have is a very complicated one and a very complex one. Mm-hmm. So her wanting to, like, I read it as her wanting to be one with him because she can only she understands what he's going through more than anyone else in the world, and miscalculating that, and then immediately knowing that it wasn't the right move, like you would when you're facing somebody that, when you're face to face with somebody that's completely vulnerable that only you understand. An emotional outburst of some sorts. And in this one, it was affectionate. It wasn't like a full on, it was like a quick, not sure how to react right here, but I know I want to be closer to you. And I really thought that was great.
Yeah, but I don't see her making that miscalculation. I see him making that miscalculation. I see Jason. I don't see Barbara making that miscalculation. I just didn't believe it for her.
In lieu of what happened the last issue where he murdered someone, sure. In the understanding of like the scene, I kind of went with it.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. It doesn't bother me that Babs is the one who did it. You can feel the connection between the two of them and what's happening, and I think that the scene leads them in that direction, and it doesn't bother me. I wasn't like, what are they doing? Oh my god!
You feel the connection because everybody draws every man Robin that looks like Dick Grayson, so that's why you feel the connection.
Yeah, he's like, oh wait, you're not Dick.
Thought it was Dick.
I kind of want him to look different. Damn it! Like that was really bugging me.
I miss the red hair.
Give him red hair. Yeah.
I didn't want him to have red hair. I wanted his face to be more messed up from a crowbar, even despite them having a mask on it. He could have had like a more of a true broken nose and not just a Band-Aid over.
Maybe give him a scar.
I was surprised that mask broke that easily, though. Like, this is his Red Hood helmet. Like, I mean, he gets hit by a crowbar a couple of times. This is his like Red Hood helmet. I thought it would protect him.
That's true. It wasn't Thor's hammer that hit him.
Right.
It was a crowbar. It's gotta expect that he's been hit with things of a similar mass before. That's a good point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it fades to red. There was more than once or twice. Like but the first one cracks it. No, it doesn't. Like the third one cracks it. I thought the first one cracked it.
It's fine, guys. You guys listen,
no,
the one he ordered it from Wish. It didn't work out.
I count the strokes. Hey,
You're right.
Do you guys think this is going to end with Jason Todd becoming a new Joker?
I hope not.
I very much wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to.
I want something new for Jason. I'm not sure I want him to be the Joker.
Although I did think, while I was reading this, I thought back to last issue, and I thought, had they done the thing where he, in the 80s or 80s, I guess, where he became the Joker's Robin back then, you remember he offered? That could possibly have been very interesting. But I don't want that to happen now. I mean, his character is very different. Yeah.
I gotta say, in issue 1, where Joker is laughing and bragging about how Jason Todd, when he was beating him to death, begged him for his life and promised that he would be his Robin.
Mm-hmm.
That hit me in such a way, like that hurt. Like what a bit of dialogue, and just to be able to imagine that child begging for his life. It's just it gave that scene even more reprehensible context and like a difficulty for me. It was just brutal.
This book is great.
I really am enjoying it. That's again. I just wish there was going to be like maybe 6 issues. 6 issues would be fine.
I'm good with 3. I'm good with 3 55-page issues.
Yeah, it's about a
All right.
6-issue. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Just 3 double sizes. So it wasn't New Frontier like 6 double sized, and then something else was like Last Night on Earth was 3 double sized. I think he can pull it off.
Okay.
It seems like even though it just started, it already seems like it's circling the end with this last little reveal. I think it's going to be all right.
Carol K says, I'm probably the youngest person here. I'm only 14.
Oh, hi.
Welcome. Sorry for all the foul language. Earmuffs.
If you hadn't heard those words before, somehow.
Yeah. But yeah, are you guys enjoying Three Jokers? Let us know. Feel free to let us know in the comments. Next up is a different book. It's called Joker Warzone #1. I'm sorry, Joker Warzone or Joker Warzone?
Joker Warzone.
Joker Warzone.
All right, cool.
Batman Joker Warzone.
Yeah,
#1.
Batman the Joker Warzone.
It is a one-shot anthology by a bunch of creatives, and there it is. Nice cover by looks like Ben Oliver. A dangerous collection of stories from the Gotham war zone. And let's see. What did they say about it? Here we go.
It's 13 plus, it says on the cover here, so everybody.
So Carol's good?
Check this out.
Carol's good. Yeah.
Gotham City is a battleground as the Joker takes over the Wayne fortune and wages a street war against the Dark Knight and his allies. Enter the War Zone with short stories featuring characters like Cassandra Cain, Stephanie Brown, and Luke Fox, and see how they're fighting back in a city under siege. Also, the brutal fall debut of the mysterious new anti-hero known as Clown Hunter. Oh, the brutal full debut. I'm like, this is not his debut, guys. He's been around for several issues. So again, this is an anthology by a bunch of different creatives. What did you like? And if you did like it, did you have a favorite? Brian.
Well, JD, I have to come clean. I only read the first 2 of them. I hope that your shock is not going to prevent the show from continuing. But they were fine. I definitely felt like, I mean, I didn't read the description of it beforehand, but I was like, oh yeah, these are like little tie-ins to things that I don't fully know what is happening about, but I kind of have an idea. I know that Catwoman stole the money for one thing, but I didn't know the Foxes got a hold of it or what the conflict is about that. I mean, it was fine. These are 2 passable stories set in the Joker War era of Batman.
This first one that we're looking at on screen by Gilliam March, I really like the back and forth. Well, I guess it's not a back and forth. It's just the Joker talking at Bane the entire time, who is strung up after Tom King's run, and Joker didn't enjoy that run either. It turns out, so I like that as well. I'm with the Joker on this one. That was terrible, and I'm curious to see what's moving forward. So, what did you think of the book, Noel? Did you read all of them?
Yeah, I read the whole thing. I also read Tom King's run, and all in all, it wasn't bad. Yeah. So all of these were pretty strong. The two middle ones were, I guess, the weakest. The Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown one by with art by David LaFuente.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love his art, but it sticks out like a sore thumb in this book. And it was just a cutesy story where they decided to finally don bat emblems.
Yeah.
And the Poison Ivy one was coolish. Only in so much as she kind of declared a different name for herself, which was cool.
Queen Ivy?
Queen Ivy now.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. But the first issue, the first story by Gilliam March and Tinian was great. I really, really liked the idea of the Joker being pissed with Bane that he ruined an opportunity, and that's gonna like start something. I thought that was cool. I love the Fox family stuff. The art is amazing, and I really, really loved kind of following them. And it's Lucius dealing with the aftermath of being poisoned by that new toxin is really cool. Mm-hmm. And I genuinely, in every way, shape, and form, adored the Clown Hunter story by Tinian with art by James Stocco. It was awesome in like a nasty Mad Max kind of way. I do have one gripe with it where the layout of the book and the layout for the James Stocco one, the layout was great, but the word balloon placement was confusing in a lot of panels where even though you're supposed to go from left to right and up and down, the word panels the word balloons would be in different, like in weird spots to make you look at them first, to read them first before it's the panel's time. Like there's a couple of spots in here where it's like this one here. So, you're supposed to go like left to right and then down and then back up to left to right. But the first thing you see after reading that second tier of panels is almost like that first word balloon that's supposed to be three more away. Like it's not the best, but it's still pretty cool.
Len, what did you think?
Nah. I mean, I thought that for the most part, this was, again, just a book of inconsequential stuff. I mean, okay, the Stephanie and the other chick, they Cassandra, yeah, they get the bat symbols. Okay, that could have literally happened in 2 pages of another book, or the main story. Bane and Joker is an interesting conversation. It's kind of cool, and maybe it sets up something going forward. But outside of looking at Gilliam March's art, which is always pleasing to the eye, I could have done without it. I thought it was interesting. I actually like that most in this book. The catching up with the foxes, that was cool. I did appreciate that. And considering that was written by John Ridley, who is scheduled to be doing a Batman book in the new year, so that was kind of cool. And I think he's supposed to be picking up on some of the plot threads that he sets in here. So that was interesting to me for that. And the art, like Noel said on that story, is phenomenal. Oliver Coipel.
Olivier Coipel. Olivier Coipel. That's how I say it.
Olivier Coipel is very reminiscent of. It's got like a little hitch in him in this story, as well as a little going way back. This artist Larry Stroman. He used to do Alien Legion way back in the day. It was reminiscent of that to me, but it was definitely enjoyable. So that was okay. But at the end of the day, would I myself look to pay $6.99 for this and this be a book that I would cherish? Like, nah, I wouldn't. And sometimes you got to think with your dollars.
The price of this book is stupid.
Yeah.
This is a $6.99 book. The previous book, Three Jokers, $6.99, felt worth it.
Yes.
This does not. This is not do not do this, DC. Knock it the F off with the $6.99 for like a little anthology. What's it got? Four stories, 5 maybe?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's only 4 stories.
Get out of here.
What was the
Now-
cybernetic special? You guys remember that summer cybernetic special that
Yeah.
came out this summer?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Whatever price that was, that's what this should be. And I don't think that was $6.99. You know,
And that one, whatever price that was, that had more than 4 stories.
that's a good point too. Yeah.
My favorite here was actually the John Ridley one because I'm so curious about what John Ridley's going to be doing. You know, when DC Fandom happened, they revealed that John Ridley was going to be doing a new Black Batman, and you know, the which is cool. My question is, this is Batwing we're looking at, right? We already have Batwing, but we're going to have a different Batman. And I'm curious to see what we're setting up here. Also, I have not spent any time with the Foxes. I know there's Lucius and there's Luke. I didn't even know there was another part of the family. There was a wife.
Was there before? I mean, as far as I know, there was only Lucius up until fairly recent, like relatively, you know, New 52.
The kid that the brother that they're talking about, Tim, or like they mentioned, like it's time for Tim to come home. He speculation went crazy. Like I think he was premiered in like three something, Batman 300 something, and speculation for that issue went through the roof after this because everyone's assuming he's going to be an important character soon.
Maybe he'll be.
He was just obscure.
Brandon says one of his daughters dated Tim in Red Robin. Also, I was thinking the same thing, Brian. The cybernetic special, Brandon says, was $9.99.
Was it? Oh man! All right, no, I
didn't want to say it because I wasn't 100% sure, but I was like,
I thought it was. All right, this should not have been $9.99, obviously. Oh, Samuel David mentioned how cool this Batwing costume is, and I completely agree. That costume is fantastic.
And that was a Judd Winnick thing. Like Judd Winnick was the one that wrote that Batwing series before he left DC. Like that was it pre New 52? It was like post one of the crises.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, but this like style suit and Batwing becoming a permanent member of the Bat family. Yeah. It was around the Red Hood era, like under the Red Hood.
Gotcha. All right.
If this was prestige format, it wouldn't hurt so much, but it's just a normal.
Just an issue.
Book. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We're so many DC books. Dark Knight's Metal, Multiverse's End, #1 by James Tynion IV with art by Juan Gideon. Let's see. What does it say? What do they say? They say, Perpetua, mother of all existence, has culled all life and creation in the multiverse, condensing all beings to one planet, Earth Prime. In her quest for power and dominance, she rules absolutely and in totality, using her children, the Monitors and Anti-Monitors, as her heralds and destructors. But a group of heroes have band together across multiple worlds in a last-ditch effort to stop her from destroying all of existence. Owlman, President Superman, Iris West, Captain Carrot, Guy Gardner, and others have chosen to make their final stand in a battle they're destined to lose. Well, why am I reading this? I wish I'd known ahead of time that they were destined to lose. I wouldn't have bothered. That being said, I'm a sucker for multiversal teams coming together. I like Captain Carrot. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yes, Captain Carrot.
Take it away, Len.
Oh, thank you. Despite my usual impulses, I found myself kind of enjoying this comic book. You know, I
want to buy 2 more. Like, that's the most sterling recommendation I've ever heard in my entire life.
I did. I mean, first of all, I love the cover by I think Art Adams did that. Yeah, Art Adams. Well, I don't know if he did this cover.
That's Chris Sprouse, I think.
No. I'm looking here. I'm looking at actually in the credits, and it says one cover was by Ian Bertram and David Stewart, and the other one's by Art Adams and Sabine Rich. And
this is Ian Bertram.
Okay, so this is Ian Bertram.
Yeah.
So
wait a minute. Ian Bertram, didn't he do The House of Penance and Little Bird?
I don't know.
That's not. No, this is wrong.
No.
Then this must be Art Adams then.
This is not Art Adams.
I didn't think it was Art Adams when I first looked at it. I didn't think it was Art Adams, and then I looked in the credits, and I was like, oh, I guess it's Art Adams.
No.
Whoever did it did a damn good cover. That's all I know. I love the cover. But the cover is stylistically wildly different from inside, and yet I still kind of dug the inside because it's like this, kind of like cartoonish battles, treating this like a big dumb cartoon. Guy Gardner's the rational one in this one. Everybody's mad buff. Captain Carrot is buff, but he still looks like Captain Carrot. I'm a sucker for Captain Carrot. All right?
Okay, there we go. Thank you. What they have printed inside is wrong. This is by Michael Golden.
Oh, perfect. Because when I looked at it, I thought it was Michael Golden, and then I said, well, I guess that could be Art Adams doing a Michael Golden suite. So now that's why I love it, because Michael Golden is probably one of my favorite artists of all time. So yes, he was the one artist like I totally geeked out over and could not say anything to at a comic book convention. I'll tell you that story later. So now I want a poster of the cover because it was Michael Gold. But yeah, it's just like this big dumb cartoon. Like the only thing I don't like about this book, it does stop to fill in the backstory of Perpetua and give you literally her entire, life story from the crib to the coffin, just about. You know what I mean? And in the way that it is detailed, sometimes you realize, like, a little bit of this don't make any sense, but it's a comic book. What the hell? But you're wrapped up in it and you're just enjoying it. Owlman, now after the DC animated universe movie of the Justice League versus the Crime Syndicate, I can't remember what it was called, but after that one where James Wood played Owlman, every time I see Owlman, I hear James Wood. That's right.
That's my favorite one. It's
a surprisingly good voice for Owlman. Like, unexpected and awesome. Yeah.
Well, he's a villain in real life. So
very true. So now when I see Owlman, I don't even care what iteration of it is, I hear James Wood. So now I'm reading him, James Wood. And so in my mind, this is James Wood talking to Phil Lamar's Green Lantern. And I'm in heaven because it's just a big dumb cartoon. And it's Mel Blanc being Captain Carrot. I'm having a ball with this comic book.
I also loved this. So one Gideon has been a fill-in artist on Venom, between Ryan Stegman arcs. So I was very familiar with kind of his cartoony style, but it's more than that. It's not just like Buffy and cartoony. It's also there's detail in here.
Yeah,
it's not simplistic when you say cartoony. It's just like cartoony proportions and coloring, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I loved this issue, and I don't think that it felt like something was missing. If anything, this is what was missing from the last issue of Death Metal.
Right.
Yeah. What, all of these characters were sent off to go destroy the antennas on all these multiverses, while the Trinity was sent to each crisis to steal a little bit of crisis energy. So in Death Metal, the two teams diverged, and these last two one-shots have been what's happening with each team. Mm-hmm. And I think it's awesome. I don't think it felt like a missing piece. The idea of Owlman becoming a central character in this was so freaking cool. And his entire motivation was based off of, we're good now because no matter what, I don't die. I was like, this is great. This is absolutely great.
I liked his understanding of I liked him coming to an understanding of how continuity works,
Oh,
yeah. And yeah.
Well, he's such a badass. Mm-hmm. Before they even have their conversation about hey, Stuart, sell me on why the fuck I should help you. Mm-hmm. Before they even have that conversation, he's like, I've booby trapped every single tower already. I could end this in a heartbeat. You just need to tell me why I need to bother with you. And that's the conflict of this whole issue, which I thought was just awesome.
Yeah.
I like the conclusion that he comes to too, where So I similarly really like this issue, and I thought it was a great point for a kind of recap of what is happening. It's in a tie-in book, and I liked getting that kind of overarching backstory, some of which I already knew, but it's just fun, and some of which was new, so that was helpful. But also the one part about it that I thought was kind of dumb turned out to be the point of that and was cool, where, you know, Owlman, his thesis is like, I am the true dark reflection of Batman, you know, not all these other ones, which I thought was great use of that character. And then he says to, you know, the I don't know who he is, the Batman, grown-up Batman in a Batman's baby's body, and the lanterns, I was like, so. And then Owlman points out, like, you are dumb and nobody will remember you. Everyone will come back to me. And yeah, I thought it was great. I thought the whole story was great. And the emotion from Captain Carrot, surprising and cool. Really enjoyable issue.
There is when we started reading Scott Snyder's Justice League run, and we were going back and forth. Like, I was the only one that kind of stuck with it, but we jumped in and out. But those first handful of issues were so like intense and weird, and every like fourth or fifth issue, right when we thought like, I'm dropping this book, James Tynion IV would write a fill-in issue, and it would be like about one villain or an explanation of a thing, and it was the best issue, and you kind of kept going, and that's exactly what this is. Tynion IV comes in and cleans up or streamlines all of Scott Snyder's big weird ideas into something that's just like fun and simple. Because the fact that he culled up all of the Justice League run in one word balloon of Stewart. One word balloon. All of that crap about the totality and shit in one word balloon. I was just like, yeah, no, that's all of it. That's all of it right there. So this was great.
I think it was needed. As someone who only dipped in and out of that Justice League run at whenever Noel would be like, it's dope. I didn't have a full grasp on it. And there was a couple of missing pieces that I was like, oh, here we go. All right. It's a nice little 2 pages. Here's what happened. Great. Thanks.
I have a question for you guys. The part of the recap you get to where you got Parallax, and it's talking about how Perpetua noticed, like, after the first crisis that there was a crack, and so she kind of instigates these other crises.
Yeah.
My guess is that Tynion does it just for the sake of a streamlined storytelling, but he does not include the New 52, which I thought was unusual. You know, there's one other time, I think in the page that you were just at, JD, where there's an Owlman that's, I think, out of step with continuity in some way. Like the middle one is JLA Earth 2, I think, with Grant Morrison.
Right.
So Flashpoint's not a crisis. Flashpoint is a rewriting of like, it's a time rewrite. It's not a crisis event. Like they didn't Flashpoint didn't cull all the universes into one, or one universe broken out into many, which is what the crises were.
Oh, it's got to involve other universes.
Yeah, Flashpoint was just a rewriting of time.
Yeah,
Damn it! Well done.
All right, nice.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah, this book was a lot of fun. I had somebody had posted somewhere on Facebook or whatever, and I happened to glance by it as I was scrolling, and that they just didn't. It was useless, and they didn't like it, and blah blah blah. So like, I went into this being like, oh, geez, I've really been enjoying this. I hope it's not as bad as whoever said it was. And I had a lot of fun. I thought it was a lot of fun. And again, it's important for me because it sort of summarized all of the JLA run, the Justice League run by what's his nut, Snyder. So yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. The art's really cool. It has a flavor of the guy who did Rumble. What is his name? Like,
oh, shoot. I know who you're talking about too.
He's in the same vein as like Daniel Warren Johnson. But yeah, he's one of my favorite artists currently working, and a lot of people have sort of been James Herron. Yeah, a lot of people have been taking the James Herron route in their artwork recently, and I kind of love it. But anyway, yeah, this is a lot of fun. I think it's another good addition to the Dark Knight's Metal Death Metal run, which has no right being as fun as it is, I think. I'm enjoying this way more than Dark Knight's Metal, the original.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Like night and day with the two of them.
I want to check in with Todd Engel, who commented on Facebook. I don't know if he's having a stroke or if he sat on his phone, but I put it up on the screen. Just want to make sure. Do we need to call somebody? Are you all right, Todd? All right. What's next?
I have one question for you guys. In I think the second to last, or no, the last page of this issue, there's a Bizarro on the ship with them. What do you guys make of that? Is he like part of the, what's the name? Justice Incarnate, I think is the name of their team.
Sure.
Oh,
okay.
There he is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Also, to be continued in the Rise of the New God, #1. I'm excited about that now, but I didn't know it was happening.
Yeah, that's the other one shot that's coming out in the skip month.
Oh, I didn't know there was one more. Great, cool.
Yeah, there's like 3 more one shots.
Yeah. One that's like Lobo based for some reason.
Yeah, that one. That's the only one that I want to just not read. And they even said that that's like an anthology. That's just like, it's filled with like what ifs of if Lobo was a part of XYZ kind of bullshit, which I think is stupid.
All right.
But that's only because I don't like Lobo.
Alienated #6 of 6, finally wrapping up this miniseries that I'm not sure if all of us on the show love it, but I know me and Noel do. Simon Spurrier, who is also writing the current run of Hellblazer, John Constantine, which has been canceled. So pick it up. The trade paperback is out now. Pick it up, and maybe they will continue writing my favorite book on the shelves right now. This is Alienated #6 with art by Chris Wildgoose, reeling from the devastating effects of Chip's true powers. The Sams have a terrible choice to make as they face off once and for all. Chip and the town of Tangletree hangs in the balance. I will say that this last issue wrapped up a little too quickly for me. Otherwise, this is a pretty fantastic miniseries that I highly recommend to everybody. Noel, why don't you tell us what you thought?
It did wrap up. It wrapped up quickly, but I really, really liked the epilogue. So, like the climax, arguably too, the end of issue #5 was the climax of the book. It just needed like a quick little resolution of that climax where the one character just went way too far. Like that was the climax, that all this shit happened and a lot of people died. The way that they dispatched the villain, because there's really no villains in this book. There's villains. It doesn't matter. The way that they dispatched the big bad was so obvious, but I was so into the book, I didn't see it. Yeah, like it was such a
I'm sorry,
obvious
I
comic
did see
thing. Well, I didn't, like, I knew something, but I didn't see it. Like as soon as it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, I was just like, "Oh, are they in the? Oh, nice, well done!" Like it was just paced out incredibly well. It wasn't like you fooled me. I was just so into it that I didn't bother trying to figure it out.
Gotcha.
You know,
Yeah.
This whole miniseries was just so amazing.
Cy Spurrier,
this.
because of Hellblazer, because of Alienated specifically, it's a name I'm now going to remember and look for in the future. Brian, did you read this?
No, I hope that with the earlier shock of me not finishing that Batman book, that me also not reading this, somehow we can continue. But
Len.
sorry, I didn't read it.
I did read Alienated. If I read any of the other books, I honestly didn't remember them. So I was a little lost in it. So I can't say whether or not I felt it wrapped up a little bit too quick or too pat for me or not. That being said, it read like an enjoyable book. I almost wish I hadn't read it because I was interested to catch up on it. It's fun visuals. I think the storytelling is imaginative, sometimes a little hard to follow, but I don't think that necessarily is a fault of the artist as much a fault of just me and as I was, the time of day when I was reading it. and also coming in chapter 6, so not catching up, picking up on all of the visual cues that probably have become language by now if you had read all 6 issues. But I thought it was, silly little fun. I could see
Silly?
Stop swiping. Stop swiping the comic. I don't want it to get any further if anybody's interested in reading this.
Yeah, because it's not silly. It actually is a little. It's a lot. It's not silly at all.
I was gonna say it's very dark.
It's very dark, which I think is interesting because that is very much contrasted by the art style. I don't think the art is dark at all,
Right.
but the story is, and I think that it helps. The art helps make that story a little bit more palatable. And I thought that the end of this story, was actually a true epilogue. Sometimes the epilogues aren't really epilogues, especially now where comic books are so busy setting up the next thing that the epilogue is really just a teaser. Yeah. I thought this was actually just a true epilogue, and I appreciated that much.
Yeah, it was a legitimate ending. Like this should never be picked up. It's just good. I loved the series as a whole was fantastic. And you're right, Len. I think earlier issues we had talked about, like just looking at the cover of this book, it does not indicate the kind of style of story it is. Like it's very colorful. The character designs they pop, but it's a very dark, very emotionally personal book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you've read the end, you still don't know how dark it got, and you should go back and read the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
So this alien or multidimensional character, Chip, was a blank slate when these 3 teenagers came across it. And they literally fueled it with all of their insecurities and hates and bad ideas, and it just became a tsunami of destruction. This whole book is one of my favorite things that happened this year.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes down to trade paperback, we highly recommend. It's going to be from Boom Studios. Pick up the trade paperback. It's a nice one and done. You don't have to worry about reading too much of it. In and out. Highly recommend it. It's great. Next up on the docket.
There's something that I feel like we haven't talked about in a little while, and it's been long enough that I've completely forgotten all pieces of information about it. Is there any way for people to donate to the show through Patreon or anywhere?
Yeah, there is.
Is that right?
If you look on your screen right now, you'll see the words patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. That will go to help the show be better, hopefully.
$1 equals one betterment.
Yeah.
We measure quality with monetarily.
As does the rest of the world. Let's see. How do I... Now I'm all confused. You threw me off my game.
What's the next book?
My secret intent.
The next book is Department of Truth, #1 by James Tynion IV with art by Martin Simmons. Cole Turner has studied conspiracy theories all his life, but he isn't prepared for what happens when he discovers that all of them are true. From the JFK assassination to flat earth theory and reptilian shapeshifters, one organization has been covering them up for generations. What is the deep, dark secret behind the Department of Truth? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You should read this book. I think this may, in a week full of books that I really enjoyed, I read this morning and I was immediately engaged. I think that this was great. It's got an interesting idea, and I highly recommend it. But I'm going to throw it to Len. What did you think?
The Department of Truth, the book where James Tynion reveals that he is actually really a nom de plume for Oliver Stone. I thought this was I thought it was a very interesting book. The whole idea that, there's a department whose whole job is to keep conspiracy theories in the world of conspiracy theories, I thought was cool. I thought it was interesting, the way it spells out, the way it starts, the way it gets into the story. Every aspect of this book I liked, except the art. And
I was wondering.
And it's not that the art is bad. The art is good. It's just that I don't think the art sells the story. There's a moment of a big reveal in this book where, for lack of a better word, you get to the end of the earth. And I don't think the art sells that big moment, at least not to me. It didn't translate off of the page like I think they intended it to do. And I think that's the only fault I have with this book. I think it is sometimes maybe just a step too stylized, that it's just not really selling the art. I understand what it's doing. I understand who what it's going for. It definitely has earmarks of early Bill Sienkiewicz, who did the great Elektra miniseries with Frank Miller, way back when Frank Miller could still write. And that's a fantastic comic book. And I urge people to go pick that old book up and read it. It's just as prescient today as it was back then. And you could see that style all in this, even some earmarks of the story all in that comic. But I just think that there are moments where it just is a hair too stylized, and it fails the story. But it's a very interesting comic book. I actually did enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I got to do a thunder round of this earlier this week, and that was one of my I wouldn't even say gripes too. It was for it being a sketchy, loose, painted style. I didn't have the same problems I usually have with painted styles, where it's just static and it looks like people posing in between panels as opposed to kinetic energy between, like, showing motion between panels. This didn't have that, so like that was a plus. However, when it came to things that needed to be like jaw-dropping, it was just a little too abstract for it to like really land. Mm-hmm. And really just that one scene, like that one scene where they reach the end of the earth, and you're like, is it snow? Is it like it was just a touch too abstract to really just hammer it home, which I think was a missed opportunity. However, literally every other page of this book was fantastic.
Yeah, I think I found the art mildly off-putting when I first opened it up, but I quickly grew acclimated to it, and I didn't have any problems moving forward. But it definitely was an adjustment when I first started reading it. But the story itself is so compelling that I quickly fell in line. It was fine.
Are we going to spoil it or no?
Yeah, I think we ought to. That's the most interesting thing in the book. Well, not necessarily the last page reveal, just the high concept, at least.
I want to talk about the last page, but I don't have to.
Okay.
We don't have to.
I think I felt exactly like you guys did, and I think as maybe sort of similar to how Samuel David feels, that it took me a second to get into it. When I opened the book up, I was like, I went back to check the cover. I was like, oh, is this a JFK assassination thing? You know,
right.
What's this going to be like? And I also got acclimated to it. You know, as it was going on, I find this style of art a little, it's off-putting. The story intends it to be off-putting, so that's not accidental, I think. But you know, it fit the story, and I was not. I acclimated. It was fine. The ideas it presented in it were very cool about how the more people believe in something, the more, like, you hit a point where then it exists. Mm-hmm. This is how the world operates.
The opposite of conspiracy theory management. So, or what people perceive as conspiracy theory management. The idea of, like, they don't want you to talk about this stuff because they'll tell you the truth.
Right.
Or they don't want you to know the truth. But in reality, it's like, no, we don't want you to talk about this shit because you're going to make it the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fun.
And you would think that must have happened at times in the past, right? Like we did not always believe that the Earth revolved around the sun. So there came a time when the gestalt changed and people started thinking that way. And I found myself wondering while reading the book, like, well, why don't they use it? Why don't they do something good with
Well,
it?
I think, you know what, I bet they will at some point too. Like, so there is this, they present in the book that there is an objective truth, but any kind of like large swell against that objective truth creates a new truth, and that would cause it would cascade to multiple other things being true in retroactively, which is a huge clusterfuck, right? When it comes to science, religion, political, everything. So that makes me think that the reveal that we have at the end, I don't think that that's who they say that is.
Oh,
I
really?
think that
you don't?
I think a conspiracy theory brought that person back.
Whoa! I didn't even
that's
consider
interesting.
that. That would be interesting.
So it's not really the person, but it is really the person because a lot of people believe something about that person, and now they work for this Department of Truth.
Wow.
Which, just the idea of that makes me all super effing giddy about this series. This was awesome.
That's interesting. I just don't think that this would go the world of that, because to me that dips into the mystical and supernatural, and I don't think that is where it's intended, because that thinking kind of aligns with some of the thinking in Fables, that comic book, and why the Jack of Fables was as powerful and as successful a character as he was, and why Jack was, you saw the character of Jack in so many different Fable stories. It was a whole idea of, because, you know, the world at large grew to, you know, be so fond of Jack and see Jack as this heroic character that he you know, thus became the hero of all these other stories. And this kind of mirrors that a little bit. So I just don't think see them going that way. It would be interesting. I'm not knocking the theory.
Oh, no. I just you mentioned you don't think it's mystical yet or supernatural, and I think it really is. The entire conceit that emotional groundswell or belief can make something can create something. So like in this, it's the example of flat Earth. Enough people in one location believed it to the point where it started to make it true. That is supernatural. That is mystical. So I didn't think that they were steering away from that with this book.
Yeah, it sort of takes the element that I've seen in a lot of like stories or comics about gods, and gods are only as powerful as the amount of people who are praying to them and believe in them, and the only reason they exist. And, you know, certain gods disappear. I think in Jason Aaron's run, there were gods who were like disappearing because nobody prayed to them or believed in them anymore. And they took that, James Tynion took that and has expanded that to a, I guess maybe a more, I don't want to say real world aspect, but, you know, more.
Well, like the world, as opposed to
I was going to say he applied it to a shitty subreddit. He applied that.
Well, they mention also the Buddhist tulpa here, which I'd heard of, but I couldn't recall. But luckily they explained it right after that. It's like a thought form, you know, that people think things and then they are given reality. It also kind of reminded me of the magnetic pole shifting. You know how every so often, I mean, on geological terms, every so often the magnetic poles switch. And so what's now north has been and will be again south, and it'll go back and forth. And it begins with like, and I don't know how this part works, but like a part of a section of the earth growing that is the opposite way, and then it like takes over. I don't know I don't know how that works, but kind of reminds me.
Wasn't that one of the weird pseudoscience explanations for shit on Lost? The fact that the island itself was a magnetic anomaly that had to do with the pole shifting. So like time functioned differently there. Everything functioned, like everything was very different inside of that little bubble.
Yeah.
Sorry, at this point, all I remember is that there was a big mean drain.
Yes. I also like the idea of where like, they say once this is the case, it will have always been true.
Yeah.
And that kind of like time thinking really delights me. So
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
This is a great book.
Tyler Reynolds says, "Is Tinian into magic like Alan Moore and Grant Morrison? This is very much magical thinking." I'm not sure.
That's my knowledge.
This
Yeah.
is the third awesome Tinian thing. I didn't read the Clown Hunter story, but you loved it, Noel. And he wrote the Multiverse's End and this. This is a good week.
Well, also, doesn't he do Something is Killing the Children, which I very much enjoy?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's literally the most popular writer in comics right now.
What?
Yeah, I mean,
we all like him. It's four.
Batman is the best-selling comic. Batman is the best-selling comic and has been this last year. Something is Killing the Children increases in sales every subsequent issue, which is unheard of. This was one of the biggest Image launches in history.
I think he's getting a lot of work. I don't think that he is the biggest name in comics.
Numbers-wise, I think he's currently right now one of the biggest names in comics.
I'm sorry, I was talking about his actual name, but yeah. I don't think he's a household name. I don't think people know the name Brian Michael Bendis. People know Grant Morrison. I don't think a lot of people are going, James Tinian!
The fourth!
Yeah.
Which one do you mean?
I think that they're.
Not the
I
second.
think that he is. I think that his books are incredibly popular right now.
Sure.
I don't think that they know who he is, but like he is hitting on a lot of specific zeitgeists right now.
Yeah.
And they're all churning up winners.
I think he's the next Brian K. Vaughan.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say I think he's the next Jeff Johns. Because he's going back and forth. Like he plays very explicitly in the sandbox, but then also does this over here and then this over here.
Okay, I'll give you that.
And I think he's going to be at DC for a long time.
Brandon says that he guesses that Tom Taylor is bigger. As I guess, I think they're probably equal as far as name recognition.
Yeah, I thought Tom Taylor was, even though he's incredibly popular in like our circles, I think he's still relatively unknown.
Yeah, and I think the same about James, to be honest.
Next up is Shang-Chi, number 1 of 5 by Jean Lin Yang, Dyke Ruan, and Philip Tan, with an art by Jimmy Chung. He's so good. The Master returns. An ancient and evil secret society has stayed in hiding since the death of their leader, Zheng Zhu. But I know I'm butchering that name. But now his successor has been chosen to shift the balance of power in the world. Shang-Chi's son, Shang-Chi, witnessed the Marvel Universe's greatest fighter return to a world of death and destruction he thought he left behind long ago, and discover the secrets to Shang-Chi's past that will change his world forever. Don't miss out on this epic tale of family betrayal and justice as the incredible team of blah blah, I already mentioned all those people, launch a new chapter in the legend of Shang-Chi. I wish I wasn't already reading Firepower, which is very much, this description could be applied to Firepower, I think. And while I did enjoy this book, I think my problem is that it doesn't really fully set up who Shang-Chi is and what his abilities are and maybe why I should care about him. I'm in it. I'm definitely going to read all 5 issues. I'm curious enough about this character to find out more. I've always been sort of curious, but I have no experience. And coming into this character with no experience, I feel like they could have done a better job of setting me up what the world is. What did you guys think? No.
Yeah, they didn't do a Shang-Chi primer. But I don't know. He's always been a just being mildly familiar with him was enough for me to just kind of like flow through it. And all of the legwork that they did before about the 5 houses, like each one being designated of a weapon. And as soon as they were like the House of the Fist, I was just like, oh, is that going to be Shang-Chi? Which was cool. I thought that this book was adorable. I loved it. Like, it was just really, really enjoyable and cute, even though it wasn't very meaty at all. Like, this was a half of a pilot episode. Like, all it did was introduce some very engaging characters, and that's it. Like, they hinted at the conflict, and that was literally that they hinted at the conflict, as in that was the cliffhanger of this was ooh. So it was slight, but it was enjoyable, and I really dug it, and I especially loved the kind of like code switching conversation that happens in the middle of the book.
Yes.
It was
yes.
so cool. It was so cool.
What's code switching for people who don't know?
That's when someone will, you know what, actually Len would probably describe it better because I can't and don't code switch.
It's just it basically is when someone is trying to God, how do you explain code switching? It's trying to speak not in your how you would speak. You're trying to just have an affect or give the showing the speech patterns of another culture or someone else that's not. It basically is trying to talk white. When you don't talk white, but you're trying to talk white to white people, and it comes off as stilted or almost broken English if English is not your first language, because you it's not your natural patois as you would.
Yeah, it goes both ways though too though. Like if you're a white man that normally talks like culturally like a black man, but when you're with your white friends, you switch off into talking like this as opposed to talking like that. Same with Shang-Chi. The whole thing is like, why do you sound like a fortune cookie? And she gets called out on it, like using the preposition before the action and all kinds of like those stereotypical ways. And she's like, why do you do that? And he was like, people just kind of expect me to talk like that. And he, even in the text boxes, I meant to say this. This is what I meant to say.
He corrects himself. Yeah. I don't think I personally correct you on, because there's no right or wrong answer to code switch. Code switch is a concept that was created as whatever. I don't think white people, when they do it, are seen as code switching. I think white people, when they do it, are seen as once again appropriating another culture when they are talking black. But so I don't think that white people are code switching. I think other races are code switching sometimes
to make themselves palatable to white people.
Right.
Although he does, my understanding was it was just like a linguistic term about like all of those aspects are true, but it was just like I speak differently around my friends than I do at work. Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
It started like that.
Yeah,
that's code switching.
Look. Whatever code switching is, or whatever, you read the book, you'll see what happens.
So look, Shang-Chi, for some reasons, it was put in his head however long ago that he is more palatable as a hero, as his whole thing to sound like this, even though that's not necessarily how he normally talks.
Right.
So she calls him out, like, why do you talk like a fortune cookie? I know that you don't talk like that. And he basically admits, like, that's how people expect me to talk. So I do. So he switches to
when he sounds like a
wise
Asian, like full of ancient wisdom kind of thing, which
is because they expect him to talk like that.
Exactly.
JD, I don't know if you saw in the comments. Brandon says, speaking of code switching, changing your speech pattern to match the people around you. And Samuel David adds, it's like when I talk to my Cuban dad a certain way, and then I speak like a regular American kid with my friends. But when I speak to my mom, I got to do a bit of a Texas drawl.
Wow.
I guess to a degree that is, I don't know what speaking like a regular American kid means, but I think
man.
But I dig what you're saying.
Hot dog.
We're gonna go hit that half pipe.
We've all of a sudden turned.
Sling me a Mountain Dew, brother.
We've all of a sudden turned into
please.
Archie Comics over here. Anyway,
let's go get a soda pop.
You want to go to the malt shop?
The malt.
Malt shop. Well, let's get 2 straws and 1 drink, you guys.
It was. All I'm saying is, in the middle of a very slight book, it was an incredibly interesting concept to insert. It was really, 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 really cool.
It was cool. I liked the comic book. I thought it was basically the first half of a Bruce Lee movie. So, which is not bad, I
ain't mad at that.
Maybe the first fifth.
Yeah. I also liked that they didn't wholly reboot Shang-Chi. Like there's mention to, I understand that you used to be a spy, it used to be this, it used to be Avenger, and those are aspects of his past iterations that I was familiar with, especially the spy bit. That's when he was at his his heyday and most popular in the 70s and 80s. So I like that they didn't just totally, like, say this is, reboot, like do away with all of that. They mentioned it and then they kind of move on. I also enjoyed the artwork on it. I thought that it was smart in this introduction to Shang-Chi because it doesn't get bogged down in all of that past minutia, because you could get lost in that minutia. You don't know who he is. All you got to know is that when she said you used to be a spy, you used to be this, that means you used to be good with whatever you did, you were good. And it quickly becomes evident what he's good at. He's good at fighting. So, and whatever other aspects of him you'll learn as the story goes along. It was fun. It was a fun little read. It wasn't great. It wasn't like, some deep read, but I appreciated that every once in a while. Just like from Marvel when they did the Spider-Woman comic book, which was a lot more, lighter fare. I appreciated this is just a straight action comic. It was fun.
Yeah.
I liked it too. And I really didn't expect to enjoy it. Shang-Chi he's barely a superhero. If he wasn't in the Marvel universe, you would never think of him as a superhero. He's one of those characters that is created as a different genre, but they want them in the comics universe, kind of thing. And, I never really had much to do with him. I didn't care that much, but when he would show up, it was fine. But this book, I thought it was fun. It really got me engaged with him, his personality. The art switch is interesting and good. Rarely is a comic just completely switch art like this. But I thought it was good. And the thing at the end is maybe not the most original.
True.
We'll see what happens. I liked it overall. I'm really into it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to finish this series. Action Figure Expert says, do you guys think this 5-parter Shang-Chi comic is as the series is going to be what the movie's based on? And I highly doubt it. I don't think this is going to be connected at all.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised though that one, they're introducing him to just kind of introduce him to that the movie making audience. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't take this more streamlined world of his as a jumping point for whatever role he's going to play in the MCU moving forward.
Yeah. Also too, even the title of the Shang-Chi movie implies that it's going to have nothing to do with what this comic is. It's and the 10 Rings or the organization, they're going to mash the Mandarin or the Mystery of the 10 Rings or something like that. They're going to mash the Mandarin and the 10 Rings into Shang-Chi.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I think that is actually kind of what is being done in this issue. You guys may not know. With his dad. What's that? With his dad. Yeah. As I understand it, you know the character of Fu Manchu? And he was licensed by Marvel at one point, and they created a series where his son was fighting against him, and that character is Shang-Chi. Right. But then they lost the rights to Fu Manchu. So they had to have, his father is a different ancient Asian character who's very, very similar to Fu Manchu. And I kind of wonder if that is what the 10 Rings organization will be as well.
Yeah, I just looked it up really quick. It's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings.
Okay.
So I don't think that they're going to do this at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was influenced by the movie, right? They're not going to do that, but they're like, hey, do something kind of like the characterization we're going to do in the movie. Yeah. So put it out there.
I'm curious, Brian, you may know more than me because I know that story about Fu Manchu and his connection to Shang-Chi. But I thought I had read, and I'm not home, so I can't pull my issue of Back Issue Magazine to confirm this. I thought that I had read that it actually was more insidious, that Marvel was using Fu Manchu and then were notified that they could no longer use Fu Manchu.
I believe that.
And thus had to kind of start rewriting things.
Now that you mention it, I don't remember, but I think there was something that happened. You know, like
Yeah.
some kind of like one group said he could do it, but they didn't really have the rights, or nobody ever said, and they didn't realize he wasn't a public domain character. Or so, yeah, I think there is more to that story.
Yeah.
I'm a little embarrassed that I am enjoying, and Samuel David, I think, said that too. I like Shang-Chi. It was fun, but I like Firepower better. I hate that I'm enjoying the white martial art book better than I am the Asian art book.
Is he white in Firepower?
No,
it's
the creators are white.
I got it.
It's Robert Kirkman and Chris Samnee.
We're talking about, so Firepower has had what, 300 pages worth of story so far. This has been 20.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, I mean, like we've had more time to sit with Firepower, and it is Chris Samnee, so that always gets everything higher. Like,
yeah, I love
this
Chris
is
Samnee.
barely
Chris Samnee's artwork in Firepower and the martial arts and everything always has this silent majesty to it. There's not a lot of speed lines like there are in this book. This is very much more action oriented, whereas everything in Firepower looks like ballet.
I like Firepower more too, but that's only based off of what I know now. Like, this is enjoyable, and maybe it's going to be great. Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
I'm just not like, oh man, I can't wait for issue 2. I'm like, I'll read issue 2.
And it does sound like they're going for two different audiences.
Sure.
It sounds because I don't. If I've read Firepower, it hasn't done anything. It hasn't set itself in my brain. But just hearing what you're saying, it sounds like it's maybe a little deeper of a read than this, which decidedly, like I said, just comes off like a dumb karate movie.
Gotcha.
Well, this is purely like in Marvel. You know, like this is steeped in Marvel. Like they're doing their best to reintroduce him into current Marvel continuity. The last time that they even bothered doing this was, I think, a couple of like tie-in miniseries to an event, and then I think he was in like one arc of Secret Avengers 5 or 6 years ago. You know, like he's not had his own book in a long time.
Does he have any abilities besides martial arts?
I don't think so. I think he's just very.
I don't know.
That's one reason that I see him primarily as just like a martial arts movie character put into the Marvel universe.
So I've seen him do things, but I don't know if it was a temporary thing or if it's a permanent ability. So I've seen him duplicate himself. I've seen him like direct chi. I've seen him like the dragon thing here. Like, but I don't know if that's like a move or a specialty in the moment, or if it's like a gained ability. So does he have superpowers? No. Is he capable of doing things more than enough? Yeah.
By the end
is
of
he
the
capable
first
of doing? Hopefully. Well,
But not necessarily. You don't necessarily have to know them by the end of the first issue.
This is a character who has been in the Marvel universe for how long? And this is not a reboot. We are catching up to this character who has been around, and none of us know the answer as to what his abilities are.
I mean,
I'm
it's important right now.
sure he doesn't have any abilities. I mean, I know that Noel, you cited some excellent examples of him having abilities, but like I didn't think of that as a question at all. Like I didn't realize that that it was.
In a Batman kind of way, just no tech chi. He can manipulate his life force. How about that? But
he is such a borderline. Like,
I don't think we need to know that, right?
Not at the end of the first. I don't think we necessarily need to know about the end of the first issue.
I don't think so.
You know that he can. Like if at the end of the first issue you didn't see him fight at all, maybe I'd hear you, JD. But his no matter whatever abilities he has exhibited over the years, and I'm sure different writers for different reasons give him this, they're able to do this and that. At the end of the day, he is a fighter, right? Which is why it always pissed a lot of people off that Iron Fist was considered like this great fighter. It's like, no, get the fuck out of here, Shang-Chi. So that's his thing, and you see him fighting in this comic. That's the main thing. Everything else you'll learn. And as a reader that really, as much as he has been a part of Marvel for so long, he really is being reintroduced to Marvel, and they're kind of like giving like an origin story without giving him an origin story. You'll learn his abilities as it keeps going on.
Fair enough. Let's move on to X of Swords Part 2, which is in actuality X Factor number 4 by Leah Williams, Carlos E. Gomez, and Ivan Chavrin. And as usual, the lengthy descriptor provided by Diamond Comics is Death and Rebirth, Corruption, A Dark Discovery. That's what they say about this book. And I think if you're looking on the shelves and you're looking for X Factor number 4, I'm not entirely sure you would find it.
That's a good point.
It's very clearly, well, first of all, it's Chadwick Boseman, issue 1. And then it's X-Men X of Swords, part 2 of 22, and it's also X Factor number 4. So, we were talking at the beginning of the show about, I believe someone thought that it felt like it didn't feel like it was a continuation of the first issue. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like this picked up exactly where the last one left off, and it was dealing with some interesting things, and it puts forth some complications moving forward with the Ten of Swords, wherein we have, up until now, within the Hickman world of the X-Men, not really worried about death as much because they have a whole resurrection protocol that they can enact using the Five in order to bring back any mutants who have died, all with their memories intact and abilities and even their adamantium, because why not? And now that has been, it hit some hiccups, let's say. So I thought this was a very engaging second issue, and I'm just as intrigued in Ten of Swords as I have been with the first issue. What did you think, Brian?
So that was me, and I recanted, and then, so I think what happened was, looking back, the plot flowed directly from that one. I didn't at first recall what had happened with Apocalypse or that they were, something with Richter. But stylistically, it did seem like a jump, right? Like, because we were talking earlier about the realities of having a different creative team on every chapter. But I enjoyed it. I wasn't as into the first one as you guys, but this one I thought picked up steam a little bit. The Floating Kingdom of Roma Regina sounds awesome. That sounds like a great place to live for a while. It was one of these interstitials. I guess they give a little recap of each one of the kingdoms in the whatever they call it, reality. Yeah, it was fun. The thing that happened with Rockslide was interesting too, where he didn't die, but you don't have Rockslide anymore. You have a different Rockslide, and so it's kind of the same. So the stakes are raised without going back on without coming up with some reason that they can't just reconstruct people anymore. Mm-hmm. They've done it in a decent way. So yeah, I liked it.
No.
It was fine. So, plot-wise, yes, it continued from the last issue because it picked up right away. Stylistically, it felt like a different issue. Or it felt like a different series, which is cool. I like the idea that they're attempting to tell this bigger story from multiple perspectives, which I totally think is great. But I also think that that's like high risk, high reward. Like I know now that there's going to be some of the 22 chapters that are amazing and some that are going to be fine. Also, the way that this book was kind of constructed was a little weird. Like the interstitials, which I'm used to now, were coming so fast and loose and had nothing to do with what was happening in the story. It was like they were just doing preamble or... Yeah. They were squeezing in homework for you that had nothing. Like usually when these things would come in, it was because of something that was about to happen in the book or just happened and like a fun way to explain it. They were throwing in like just history of houses in Otherworld when we're over here in Krakoa dealing with something completely different.
That's a good point.
It felt blah. It screwed the pace altogether. I loved the idea that now things that happen on Otherworld, deaths that happen on Otherworld will stick because Krakoa can't reboot you as your old self because of it, which I thought was really, really cool. Raises the stakes. But did not understand what the hell was going on with Rockslide. Like, I know that it was a different him, but he couldn't keep himself together, so then Lorna just turns him into an altar? What? I didn't understand that at all.
I think those were the pieces that came off of the rock slide previously,
Oh,
and then when he was reborn. this
Okay.
is the one.
Yeah.
so she used old guy, but new guy is still
Yes.
okay. So I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah, they did not sacrifice the newly formed rock slide. We're like, well, he doesn't know who he is. Let's just turn him into.
that whole sequence got interrupted like 3 times with explanations of houses in Otherworld and 2 other conversations. And all I remember too is like just seeing shots of Lorna holding rocks while they're talking about this isn't, he's gone. The real one is gone. And then all of a sudden she built an altar out of him. I'm just like, I thought he was not dead. Like the pacing was just all fucked for me. So
I actually did get the vibe sometimes reading it that the writer or in writing the dialogue was making corrections that the art doesn't necessarily point out. You know what I mean? To that point. No, that it's not really, you're not really selling this point. So let me kind of like write our way into that she took the rocks and created, this altar of a thing. And that's for some reason that was the vibe I was getting off reading it. I felt the same way with you as far as the art. I thought that it was sometimes like that character right there who is the Saturnine, I think is her name? Saturnine. Not Emma Frost. Right.
I have to remember not Emma Frost.
Because every time she comes up, I think it's Emma Frost, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's not, and it's not helped that Emma Frost then later appears in the book. So I'm like, okay. So I thought that the art sometimes did not, while it's good art, I just think that sometimes the storytelling, it's maybe a little bit too jam-packed, a little bit too detailed sometimes, and maybe needs to pull back a little bit to help with the pacing and the storytelling. It's so, in many ways, this is a consequential book issue because of what it reveals about how they're reconciling with the resurrecting of the mutants and what you do when things go wrong. So that is a big thing to happen for them to actually have to deal with that. But you could see it as like maybe just I thought some of the women, again, just kind of like nitpicking at the art. I think some of the women sometimes had like the similar body type, which does not help sell the characters because now they all are basically looking like the same model. And whereas other artists give them distinct looks and ages and heights and things like that nature. Just some of the things that help sell the book, get you into the story, I thought were lost on it. And then for the most part, it was okay. It was cool. But
who does Apocalypse see? Speaking of that issue, who does Apocalypse see Rachel Summers' voice as? Is that Richter? When it's in his head and she's like, I gotta say, made a very interesting choice in the visual presentation. Richter?
Yeah, it's Richter.
Okay. At first I thought Cable, but then young Cable, But that's light in his hair. Anyway, all right, thanks.
I had brought up on the screen, I really like that tiny little moment between Richter and Apocalypse.
I like that, yeah.
It's the first time I've ever seen, hey, Len, let's see your face. It's the first time I've ever seen Apocalypse have like any sort of emotional response to another being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is that... Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I guess that's in Excalibur.
Yeah, they were beginning to have that kind of relationship when I kind of dropped off. When we stopped reviewing all of the X books all the time, but I was enjoying it, and I think they must be linked in some way. I think it is Apocalypse's wounds that are hurting Richter, right?
No, they were both poisoned. Okay. So
the
the blades and the arrow tips were poisoned. So they were both just, and Apocalypse got lit up by all of his children.
Yeah.
Swords and like from every angle.
Yeah.
And Richter just had an arrow, like a shot. Right? Okay.
See,
but they were dying from poison. Yeah.
I like that moment between Apocalypse and Richter, but then because one, I like that I like that. Apocalypse is not going to turn into the big bad, which you easily could have happened. Except you see that doesn't happen when his kids attack him in issue 1. But then he basically threatens to kill, or damn near kills, the healer, because the healer won't tend to Richter's wounds. Now, I know the healer has his reason, but if anything, I would have wanted Apocalypse to just not choke him to kill him. Throw him over to Richter. No, save Richter, not me. I thought that would have been the next step based on what you saw with them earlier.
Yeah, it seemed like he was shooting himself in the foot. Like, don't work on me, work on him. Don't work on me, kill you.
Right.
What?
Well, you can't work on either of us.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see who will, or if they do, dies in Otherworld upcoming, and we get a new version of that character. Will they use this to change certain characters in various ways? I'm curious to see what will happen.
I mean, they wouldn't have introduced it if they weren't planning on rebooting somebody, right?
Right.
But I do like the idea of since Otherworld is a nexus of all creations, if you die there, you're rebooted as some sort of either amalgam or randomization of a version of you.
Yeah.
That's a really, really cool concept.
That's true. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So let's kill off a main character and have them be weird for a while, and then magic will bring them back in.
We'll get their memories back or something. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought there was some nice character development in here. I really like Polaris and her sort of. She's very anxious and unsure of herself, and she doesn't know what to do. And eventually, she gets where she needs to be. Although it seems to be spurred on by her dad, Magneto, who's being a complete dickhead.
Yeah.
And he yells at her, and then she's able to access the information, which I thought was strange. I'm wondering if they'll deal with that a little bit more.
Well, she notices that too. She's like, that was weird. But
Yeah, in previous books, they've identified that her main anxieties are him and that he doesn't really know her, kind of a thing. Like, I think I was in the first issue of X Factor, which was the last one that I read.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
this wasn't
enjoyed
awful. It definitely felt disjointed to me.
I think
when
the
I was
only
reading it.
disjointed thing were the interstitials that you mentioned earlier. While I appreciated them because I didn't know anything about Merlin and his daughter and how they both are in command of two separate worlds, I guess, or portions of Otherworld. Merlin is in charge of this sort of almost metropolis that's covered in smoke, and he's very much sort of a dictator. Whereas his daughter is in charge of another section, and it's all free love and it's almost like anarchy, but it's somehow controlled anarchy.
So did you guys see did you look at the calendar?
No.
At the end of this?
No.
So next week is 3 issues. The week after that is 3 issues.
Oh man.
It's a deluge.
Yeah. That's a 22 issue.
This is not 22 weeks. This is like 12 weeks jam-packed.
Huh.
Or less than that, actually. I think it's supposed to be done in November.
I can't tell if that's good or bad though, because I don't want this to go on for 22 weeks.
Right. And it
but
worked out well with Empire, to be quick.
Yeah.
Well, again, I don't think that's comparable.
No,
Empire had us fine.
There's only
Like,
one
there's
issue per
one
week.
book.
Right, as opposed to 3.
Like they didn't. This is to me. This is equivalent of if Empire, instead of being 1 through 6 with tie-ins, every single tie-in chapter was labeled a chapter.
Plus,
And you just had to read it all in order.
This was 42 pages. Like,
Yeah.
longer than
This is
usual.
double sized, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope not. I doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see how it goes.
Yes, we will.
All right. Anything else? That's our last book. And I got to go run a store.
You run a store. Excellent.
JD's got to go run a store.
Which store? Where's it located?
Oh my God, Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex at 4327 Main Street in Manayunk, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, have been in there. That's a nice shop.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So anybody who wants to hang out with us, we are here every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. You can comment with us. You can email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at JDsHeroComplex. Brian, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm at brianliebdesign.com on the internet.
And Noel, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Bartocci, spelled right there, BARTOCCI, MRBARTOCCI, or on any of the CultPop social media feeds. Sometimes we get to do videos, and we'll throw them on here. Also, don't forget Tuesdays, you go through the new books of the week, which is pretty cool.
on Tuesdays around 2-ish, I do unboxing videos on our YouTube where I just share with you the delivery that I received, and we go through all the books and I show you what's coming out this week. Also, we on our YouTube channel will put up Thunder Round videos where we review for 60 seconds.
Thunder Round. Sorry.
I also, I'm going to try this week. I did finish the first volume of Lucifer, Brian. I'll try and do a video of it.
Oh, phenomenal. And Noel, what did you think? Did you like it? Yeah, you're right.
Wait for the video.
Where can people find you?
Hey, you can find me any place and every place that you can find the Black Tribbles podcast on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Look up at Black Tribbles and you check it out. And yo, Brandon, I see you. In the background, it says, "No justice for Breonna Taylor." And Breonna, you deserve so much better. And truer words could not be spoken.
Well done. All right. Oh, hey, speaking of justice, maybe go vote.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just a thing. Just the thing I'm thinking. Maybe go vote.
Yeah.
Vote early and once.
Vote early and often.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk at you later.